Hey yo, what's going on everybody? It's your homeboy OG Camera Boy. We back again today. We're going to be testing the Nikon Z50, see whether or not it's an admirable vlogging rig. So we're going to test to see whether or not it's got good stabilization, how it handles with the kit lens, how it handles with lenses that are going to be adapted with the FTZ adapter. I brought some other F-mount lenses because those are the lenses that I primarily have for this camera. And we're going to see whether or not it's going to perform well under those circumstances. Testing out the autofocus as it relates to the FTZ adapter and all the rest of that. So let's get to it and see what happened. You know what I'm saying? Alright then.
DNA made from Nikon Z chromosomes, homie. I guess my secret's out and now you know me.
Alright, so here we are. We out vlogging right now. You know what I'm saying? We on the Nikon Z50. I want to tell y'all a little bit about how I got it set up at the moment. I got everything on auto. I'm not going to mess around with the settings as far as custom white balances or anything like that today. It's all going to be auto stuff. So I'm saying I got it on auto white balance. I got it on auto picture control and all that. So we're going to work with that because I think a lot of people who get into the vlogging or whatever, they want to make it as simple as possible. So they want to make sure that everything just kind of performs as far as the camera makes those decisions for them. You know what I'm saying? So I also have the electronic vibration control on right now, the stabilization, as well as the optical stabilization is on. We might turn that off later just to make a little bit of a comparison and see how it goes. This is being handheld. I'll show you a little image of my rig and what I got going on and how I got it set up right now. As far as the microphone is concerned, I'm not mic'd up today. I didn't take the lav mic with me, but I did that on purpose because I decided to use a little bit of a sort of a directional microphone I got attached to the top of the camera. And that's my Boya BY-MM1, which is kind of like a Rode Vid Micro, whatever those small ones are. I tried to make a decision between those two at one point in time, and I decided for the Boya because I felt that it sounded better, to be honest with you, and it was a little bit cheaper, so that was nice. So right now we're on the kit lens too. I'm on a kit lens, the 16 to 50, and personally I like this kit lens. I think it performs very admirably. It's a very nice sharp kit lens. Autofocus is on, of course. It's on face priority. Now we know that Nikon Z50 does have eye autofocus, but not for video. It does that only for pictures. So basically it's face priority as far as the autofocus is concerned. You can make your own judgments at this point in time. Whether you think that stabilization is working well. I mean, I'm walking down a path here, nature path, so it's a concrete surface. Not the smoothest surface in the world, but it's pretty stable. It's not like walking on the sand or the beach or anything like that. So, you know, you make do and all that. So from that perspective, you can make your own judgments as to whether you think the stabilization is working well. I have found in the past that the stabilization does tend to work very well. Now, I made some judgments before too when talking about the colors that the camera puts out on auto. So you could tell me whether you think that's the case or not. Now, I personally don't find it that pleasing, and I always find for myself personally, I always like to go into custom white balances and use my white card or my white balance card and then adjust the custom white balance and then film with that. But I decided not to do that today. Today we're just going to leave it all on auto because I think that's probably the way most people are going to want to see it. Oh dang, I just walked through a spider web. Dang. That's what it is when you in the mangroves, man. You got to watch yourself because there's a lot of bugs around here and everything like that. Maybe even some alligators around here somewhere. Probably not, but anyways, can't be too careful, you know what I'm saying? And yes, I got the mask on. I know a lot of people gonna be like, oh, there's nobody around you, man. You walking down a narrow path, why you got your mask on and all that? I'll tell you why I got my mask on, because A, I got a background in sciences, so I can tell you that this virus is for real. Another thing is that I've had respiratory issues in the past, so I don't want to take no chances. That's for sure. I'll tell you that right now. So like I was saying, I'm on the kit lens right now. This is the 16 to 50 f3.5 to, I think it's 5, let's see what it says on the front, 6.3. f3.5 to 6.3. Obviously I'm on 16 millimeter right now because we want to stay as wide open as possible. We're, you know, being that this is handheld and everything. And I found this kit lens works extremely well. The autofocus with this kit lens works extremely well. I haven't seen this footage, obviously. I mean, I have my little flip screen down at the moment so I can kind of see it, but I'm willing to bet that after I see it, and I'll say it right now, it probably didn't lose focus on me. I'm pretty sure it held me in focus, and that's where Nikon has really made some massive improvements as far as like their capabilities with vlogging rigs. Before this, Nikon was terrible, let's be honest, you know what I'm saying? As far as the weight of the camera is concerned, it's not too bad. I mean, it weighs not that much as far as like that's one of the nice things about the Z50 is that it's so small. It's a small camera. So very similar to how I'm always ranting and raving about the Samsung NX500, I find the Z52 also does a very good job of packing a lot of image quality and features into a very small form factor, which I think is probably one of the things that most people are going to find very attractive about this camera, is the fact that it is very portable. It's very small. You can kind of stuff it into bag or whatever, and you have yourself an excellent rig as far as like taking pictures, as far as vlogging is concerned at any given time. And it's not that heavy. The one thing I have to say, obviously, to get back to that flip down screen situation that I dislike, is because of the flip down screen, which I'm using right now, and the small rig adapter plate, I have to have my sort of monopod attached to the side of it, and it does make it more difficult to hold because it's off center, so it's kind of not balanced properly. So you have to counterbalance it, obviously using your own strength, and that's okay because it's not that heavy. But at the same time, after you hold it that way for a long period of time, God, your arm get tired. So you might notice me switch back and forth once in a while like this, from arm to arm, hand to hand, just because I'm trying to get a little bit more comfortable. Now I'm gonna talk a little bit about the audio situation, the way I have it hooked up right now. I got a mic plugged in to the mic jack. Like I said, I got my little Boya BYM M1. That's the mic I'm using right now. I hope it comes out nicely. I don't know. I left all that on auto as well. I have hardly used the internal preamps of any of my cameras that have that capacity, so I really don't know much about that in that situation, but we'll find out, I guess. I'm one to always record externally, as you may know, because I've mentioned that in the past, and always sync it afterwards in post. But this time I figure I'll do it for the people, because most people probably don't want to do it that way. Most people want to have it simplified, so they want to have their audio and their video synced straight in camera. So let's see. We'll find out how good the sound is. Jeez, that was a big spider. We'll find out how good the sound is using the preamps of the camera with the mic hooked up to the body itself. Now I want to talk about the kit lens for a second if I could. In my experience, this kit lens is actually very good, and that's subjective. Obviously, you can make your own judgment based on what you're seeing right now, whether you think the image quality is any good. I am recording 4K 30 frames per second at this point in time, and the reason I'm doing that is because I normally like to record 24 frames per second, but I'm doing 30 because I have other cameras that can record 30, and I might splice in some footage with that. They don't do 24 very well, but otherwise I'd be using 24 frames per second. And so that's the situation. That's 4K 30. That's what you're looking at right now. So yeah, getting back to that kit lens situation. I mean, this kit lens I find is excellent. It's very sharp. It's plenty sharp. I mean, I know that 3.5 at 16 millimeters is not the nicest depth of field, but you know, it gets you a decent amount of separation. I mean, this might not be the best example of where I am at the moment because I'm very close to my surroundings. If I was out in a larger park where things were further away from me, you'd be able to start to see that bokeh or whatever. But you ain't gonna see that very well here. So this may not be the best situation, but here, if I go like this here, you see what I'm saying? The separation I get between what's behind me and what's next to me is not too bad. I mean, it's what you'd expect for 3.5 aperture. Nothing terrible, nothing great, but it's decent for vlogging. Hey, as a kit lens, it's very sharp, very responsive as far as the autofocus is concerned. So I'm very pleased with it. You know, like I said before in one of my other videos, it's a lens that I find myself tending to grab for every so often. So I'm happy with it, you know what I mean? No, I haven't taken it along with some sort of a chart where you could measure the corner sharpness, the center sharpness, and all that sort of thing. So if you want that kind of video, you're gonna have to look elsewhere. Maybe I'll make up one of those charts one of these days and do some pictures and see how that sharpness works out. But I mean, for video quality, you looking at it, so you make your own judgment, you know what I'm saying? Use your own eyes. Tell me what y'all think about that. I think it's pretty good. I got this camera with 2 kit lenses, and the other kit lens is the I think it's the 55 to 250 or whatever it is. And if you're asking yourself, oh, can I use that for vlogging? No, you cannot. Obviously, I mean, unless you have somebody standing way the F away from you being your cameraman, you ain't gonna be able to get yourself in the frame. Unless this type of vlogging thing you like to look at, like this here, you know what I'm saying? Otherwise, as far as what you get with the camera, this is gonna be your vlogging rig, you know what I mean? It's gonna be the 16 to 50. And it works very well. I'm gonna switch it up in a little bit because I did bring the FTZ adapter, and for me that was a big selling point on this camera, and why I decided to get it was entirely because of the FTZ adapter. And that FTZ adapter allows me to adapt my f-mount lenses, of course, and that means that I'm gonna have the capacity to put on some of my favorite lenses, and we're gonna see whether or not that's gonna operate well as a vlogging rig. The beauty of the kit lens is it's so small. The form factor of it is so small, hardly weighs the thing. It's very light, so you ain't gonna worry about that as far as like weight is concerned or getting too tired with your arm or whatever. Whereas I know that some of those f-mount lenses, like I brought my 12 to 24 f4, that's my favorite lens, and it's gonna be heavy. I'm aware of that, you know what I'm saying? So we're gonna test that out and see how much it's gonna be able to be dealt with or not, and whether or not it's just gonna be too heavy to be used, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, it's got a great field of view. 12 to 24 is great, especially at 12, you know what I'm saying? So you'll be seeing the difference because this is 16. But as far as weight is concerned and handheld and walking around with it just like that, this is obviously going to be your go-to as the kit lens, and it's going to be preferable to probably the 12 to 24. But we're going to check the image quality out on it. All right, so maybe we switch it over right now. Let's go to the FTZ adapter and switch up some of them lenses. Hey, yo, what's poppin', y'all? So we getting rained out at the moment, you know what I'm saying? I thought this rain would hold out, to tell you the truth. I mean, I know I checked the weather forecast and saw that there was a good possibility that it might rain, but they said about 20% in Florida, man. When they tell you 20%, there's a good chance it won't, you know what I'm saying? We got these small clouds that just pass by or whatever, and sometimes it's raining over there, but it's sunny over here, you know what I'm saying? We also get that, what they call in the Caribbean, what I learned is liquid sunshine, and that means it's sunny and raining at the same time. But anyways, I guess the sky's opened up on me, and it's raining right now, so I'm gonna have to postpone the rest of this FTZ adapter test until a little bit later. So, oh well, I'm sitting in my car right now hoping that it settles down, but if not, I'm gonna have to continue this later. Anyways, we're gonna do that FTZ adapter, don't you worry. You know, you're looking at it right now on the 1224, so I did put it on. I got it ready. It started to drizzle. I said, I better get inside the car, wait this out, even though it is weather sealed and everything like that, but I still don't like to take chances with the electronics when it comes to that, you know what I mean? When it comes to water and all that. I've had bad experiences, so. But it looks like it's raining pretty hard, so I think I'm going to postpone this till a little bit later. Alright, so the weather got a little bit better, and now I'm on the FTZ adapter with the 12 to 24. Now this lens is interesting because it doesn't have vibration reduction or image stabilization or anything like that, so there's no optical stab. It's just going to be on electronic stab, which is going to be necessary, and I have that turned on at the moment. Now there might be a few disadvantages to this lens that you might note right off the bat. Number one, if you haven't heard it already, you probably will eventually, and that is it's got a fairly noisy focus motor compared to what the other one is. As far as the kit lens is concerned, it's pretty much silent, so you can get away with putting a microphone on top of the camera and not worrying about anything as far as focus motor noise is concerned. But with this one, you're gonna have to worry about that. Now I don't know if it's come up yet, but I imagine it probably will at some point. I decided still to keep going with this here lens and with the microphone on top of the camera just to display that. But that's something you can kind of get around if you put a lav mic on, attach yourself or tether yourself to the camera via a lav mic instead, you know what I'm saying? So that's one way you can get around it. But look at this image, ain't this beautiful, man? This beautiful image, for real, man. I love it. I mean, this is my favorite lens, period. It's just so sharp. I mean, I know it's an f4 and that's all it is, but listen, it's good enough, man. F4 will do you just fine in most circumstances. And if you take a look at this right here, I mean, look at that, man. Ain't that beautiful? I think that's amazing. Now, another disadvantage of this lens is it's big, and I mean, it's heavy. I'll tell you the truth right now. It's got to outweigh the kit lens by a lot. Ain't no question about it. Not only that, but the front of the lens itself, the front element is huge. It takes a 77mm filter thread, the 77mm filter, that is to say. So the lens is so big that even if I had the camera mounted off to the side using my small rig, I still probably wouldn't see the screen. So just for the sake of balance and to make it a little bit easier, I decided to mount the camera off the center, and I actually connected it to the quarter thread mount on the FTZ adapter so that I can have a little bit better balance on it. And I'm not even using, I mean, the screen is flipped up to the back. I'm not even flipping it down, not even gonna bother with it. So this is the disadvantage with something like that. Now, how does the autofocus work on the FTZ? I found it works pretty well. I mean, we'll take a look at this footage later. I don't know right now, to tell you the truth. I haven't really had much experience with it, so this is going to be interesting for me as much as it is for you probably watching this. But I think this is a beautiful lens, and this is one of the things that I was so excited about with this Nikon Z50 was the FTZ adapter, you know what I mean? Because like I said, I have a lot of nice F-mount glass that I could use, and this is just an example of that. And this one, like I said before, it doesn't have image stabilization, so I'm relying on electronic stab at the moment, and hopefully that's going to turn out okay and work fairly well, but I guess we'll find out. I did bring a lens with me, a Sigma 17 to 50 f2.8 that does have image stabilization, so maybe we could switch over to that and take a look what that would look like. Alright, peep this now. I know y'all saying to yourself, why the hell did he change clothes? Well, I ain't trying to be fancy or anything like that. It's just because when I got home, I was checking that footage out, and guess what? I didn't put it on the correct focus setting, so it was pretty much in manual focus the whole time and completely unusable. Now, that's my mistake, so here I am again. I gotta do it again. Anyways, so we on the 17 to 50 Sigma. This is f2.8. This is a pretty popular lens. I think that a lot of people tend to get, whether it's for their Nikons or otherwise. It's one of those lenses that's very affordable, but it's a pretty decent quality lens, at least in my experience. Now, I have to say again, yeah, that footage that I had before was completely unusable, but a lot of that is also because, guess what? I didn't have the screen flip down, because this Sigma has a large front element too, just like the 12 to 24. It's got a 77mm filter thread, and that means that even with the screen flip down, it would kind of be blocked, so I wouldn't see what I was doing. So again, to rant about that screen, man, that screen flipping down is just ridiculous. I personally do not like that feature at all. I wish it flipped to the side, but anyways, I might have avoided mistakes like that, you know what I mean? Because in a situation like this with the Sigma, it's a completely unusable situation to be using that screen that flips down. You just can't see it. So no matter, even if you do have the small rig, holding it off to the side with the screen flip down, I mean, it's covered about 60%, so what are you looking at, you know what I mean? So you might hear it more now, accentuated, because I know I hear it, that the focus motor is definitely going on this one. And I got the mic sort of right on top of it, so there's no question about it. I'm sure you must be hearing some of that in the mic at this point in time. And that's definitely a downside of this lens, no question about it. Now, I found with the 12 to 24 actually that I couldn't hear it at all, which I was pretty impressed by. I know it has a relatively quiet focus motor, but I guess maybe because of the depth of field at f4, it doesn't struggle to focus that much or keep you in focus. You don't have that much hunting going on with the lens. With this one, you're gonna have a little bit more activity. But the point is that, let's put it this way, like I said before, you can get a workaround with that by having a lav mic on, attaching it and tether yourself to the body through a lav mic instead of what I got. I got just a shotgun mic at the moment because I kind of wanted to point that out, you know. I also have optical stabilization on this lens. It is on, as well as the electronic stabilization is on, and that's definitely going to be necessary. So you tell me, I mean, what y'all think of this? What do y'all think of the picture come off this Sigma adapter through the FTZ? Is it nice? It's heavy, I'll tell you that much. I don't know if you noticed, but I keep switching hands because it's a pretty big lens. And I mean, a big lens on a relatively small body, you get tired. It is heavy, there's no question about it. So, you know, that's something that you have to consider. The 12 to 24 that I was using before, that is a heavy lens too. So my arms, you know, the arms do get tired relatively quick. So that's something to keep in mind, definitely. But from a vlogging perspective, I mean, the image I'm sure looks pretty good. I have no idea what it looks like because I'm filming it now and I didn't see it yet, obviously, but I think it's going to be acceptable. So I'm going to throw the kit lens on there. We're just going to talk about that for a quick minute because I think the truth is the FTZ adapter, yeah, it's great and everything like that, and I do love it. But for vlogging purposes, I'll tell you the truth, I think all you really need is that kit lens. Is that kit lens going to do you good enough? I think it will, you know what I mean? I'm going to talk about that later in my conclusions with all this. But let's throw that kit lens on there because I had that active D-lighting on. That active D-lighting, it's just one of those things that tries to create more dynamic range. But in my opinion, it kind of made the image way too bright, you know what I mean? So there were some instances where I felt it was overexposing. So I turned the active D-lighting off. Actually, it's off right now. And I'm going to turn it off as well, leave it off, and I'm going to put the kit lens back on. We're going to walk around just for a few minutes and see what that looks like. All right, here we go. All right, so we're back on the kit lens. Let me tell you something. After putting those other lenses on there, the 12 to 24 and the 17 to 50, man, this lens, this whole system now just feels so much lighter. It's crazy how much lighter it is. I mean, those lenses are nice lenses, don't get me wrong. I like them and everything like that, but god damn. Compared to this, they weigh a ton, man. Ain't no question about it. The other thing too, obviously, now I can use my flip down screen. I can see myself and see what's going on, make sure I'm in focus. Focus motor on this lens is nice and quiet, so using my Boya microphone mounted on top of the camera is going to be just right, just perfect. I turned off that active D-lighting, by the way, so you can see. I wonder if it's going to expose any better this time versus last, or if it's still going to be blown out in some instances where I find maybe it overexposes. The other thing I noticed too that I wanted to talk about is that I mentioned this before as far as the colors are concerned from the camera. Now, like I said, I'm filming everything in auto picture profile, auto white balance. Now, that is definitely not my preference. I always like to customize those things, film on a flat picture profile that I customize a little bit, and film on custom white balance too that I balance with a white balancing card. So those little tweaks make a huge difference. At least they have in what I've noticed. So, you know, I just wanted to do everything auto out of camera this time just to show y'all what it looks like. And in my opinion, like I said, I don't know if y'all noticed this in any of the footage that you may have seen before, but it's very red sometimes, man. There's something off with the hue, I find, you know what I mean? It's just not terribly pleasing. So I find it's best if you kind of play around with the colors. I mean, maybe that's subjective. Maybe some of y'all disagree with me and say that you like the colors the way you've seen them, you know what I mean? So that could be the situation. Man, look at this beautiful orchid. God damn, look at this. Ain't that beautiful? That's just a beautiful, beautiful flower, no question. Man, they're all in bloom now. Look at this, all the orchids up from the trees in bloom here. Look how beautiful this is, man. Dang. Look at that. Beautiful. But anyways, so yeah, the kit lens is great, man. I think it works real well as far as what's available for this camera right now at this point in time. It's the best option. It really, really is. I mean, as far as a vlogger is concerned, if you're one of them who just wants to grab the camera and film yourself walking down the street, you cannot go wrong with this kit lens, you know what I'm saying? And the depth of field is fine, you know what I'm saying? It gives me that nice depth of field. At 3.5, it's alright. It's not the best, but it's okay. It's acceptable. Let's go upstairs. I'm gonna close out this video with some of my final thoughts, some of the pros and cons, and give you my honest opinion. So what are my conclusions then? So I set the exposure control to handle the subject and the background. I think next time it would be probably best to just put it on subject only, because there were moments where I found that it was kind of blowing me out or underexposing from it, because I think it was trying to expose for a general all-around scene, you know what I'm saying? So it was trying to get the background in exposure as much as it was trying to get me in exposure. So that's one thing I think I would change as far as the settings were concerned. And because of that, sometimes I was underexposed, as you saw. It was sort of struggling with the autofocus in certain instances, which was unusual, because that's the first time I've ever experienced where it would struggle with the autofocus at all from that perspective. The other thing too is that I noticed, because I was wearing the gray mask when I had to refilm the portions from the 17 to 50 Sigma lens, that gray mask really seemed to throw it off big time. Like, because the gray was kind of matching, I guess, a bit with the background, with the buildings in the background, or with the sky in some cases, it was really confusing the autofocus, which was something that was very interesting, because you saw when I was wearing the black mask before, it had no problems at all, and it didn't lose me one single time. And I know that my experience with the autofocus on the Nikon Z50 has actually been extremely good. It's always held me in focus very, very well, so I've had no issues with that whatsoever. Now, another situation, the 12mm, the 12 to 24, and I'm filming with that right now, that 12 to 24, which is a beautiful lens. That 12mm was doing a little bit of warpy stuff, I noticed, around the edges, and I don't know if that was like a combination of the distortion correction being on with the electronic stabilization as well. There was obviously something going on, a little bit warpy around the edges at 12mm wide open like that. So I thought that that was a little bit, you know, unpleasant, but it wasn't terrible. I've seen a lot worse. Normally you get that kind of result from IBIS when it mixes with like very wide angle lenses, but I was kind of surprised to see it. But I mean, it was not the most noticeable thing in the world, but it was there to some extent. And again, I don't even know what to pinpoint it to. I don't know if that was because of the electronic stabilization, or if that was as a result of, like I said, the fact that I think I had distortion on. But I don't think this one has much distortion at the edges, even though it is 12mm and quite wide. But I don't know. That's something that I have sort of failed to pinpoint, but I did notice that. That was one thing I didn't like too much. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there were some moments, especially when it goes dark, when I end up in the shadow, I find that the skin tone turns like pinkish red or something like that. It's just, there's too much pinky red stuff. So when it's, you know, when it's well exposed, I find it looks good, but the moment you find it a little bit overexposed, it goes to that pinkish hue, or underexposed, it tends to go to that red pinkish hue. And I don't know, for me, that white balance situation, auto white balance, I'm not crazy about it. In the auto picture profile, I'm not crazy about it, but like I said, I decided to use it just because I wanted to show y'all what it looks like, everything on auto for the vlogging circumstance. You know, again, I have said before that I am somebody who uses custom white balances all the time. I'm very particular to that, so that's just one of those things. Now, on the positive side, now I'm using the audio again, the mic's plugged into the camera body right here, and I was actually very impressed. I thought that the audio came out real nice. It was very clean. I didn't notice any sort of like you know, peaking or distortions, or the preamps I found were very good. I was very pleased with them. I thought that they worked out really nicely. And I tell you the truth, from that experience, I would have the confidence to use them again and again and again. So I thought that that was very good. The mic input was very good. The 4K quality, which I filmed this entire thing in 4K, is excellent. The image quality I thought was really, really good. I mean, I compare that to some other 4K capable cameras that I have, you know, most notably the NX500, and I thought it was really, really good. Optical stabilization and the electronic stabilization, when they work together, I thought they were pretty good in most instances. I think there's sort of like a caveat, and this has to be taken with a bit of a grain of salt, because you have to keep in mind, I'm not a vlogger, so I don't really have the techniques down. And to tell you the truth, there are techniques involved with it, at least as far as I'm concerned. There has to be some kind of technique involved, because I think that you have to be kind of careful with what it is, how you're walking, how you're holding the camera, and also not only that, but the type of instrument you're using, as far as like a monopod or, you know, a gorilla pod or something like that. The one that I was using was actually kind of heavy. In some cases I was finding that my arm was getting tired, so when it gets tired it doesn't have the stable, you know, counterbalancing very well, so you get a bit of a shakier image. So though I think in some instances you might see some shaky images, I think that actually, to be honest with you, had more to do with user error than it did with the electronic or the image stabilization in those circumstances. So that has to be taken with a bit of a grain of salt. That being said, I did find that it worked pretty well, the optical stabilization when combined with the electronic stabilization. And actually I was even somewhat impressed with the electronic stabilization on its own with the 12 to 24, because like I said, that one does not have vibration reduction like most other lenses do have, at least the ones that I own. And another thing to look out for too is that, obviously, like I said before, I think the conclusion is the kit lens is definitely going to be your best vlogging option. It's just incredible, in my opinion. It did struggle, but that's just like I said, because there were certain instances with that gray mask just tend to throw everything off in that final portion when I was recording with the kit lens. But as you saw before, when I had the black mask on, it didn't have that problem at all. Now, like I said before, the eye autofocus does not work with video functions on this camera. Now, that's something that Nikon, I think, can do in a firmware update, and I would hope that they get to that and maybe do that in the future, because if they did have eye autofocus, it would have been able to lock onto my eye, because obviously my eye was not covered by my mask, and that gray wouldn't have been something that would have been throwing it off so much. But anyways, that's just something to put on a wish list, I guess, that hopefully Nikon maybe will include eye autofocus for video in future firmware updates if they do decide to do that. That being said as well, like I said, so your kit lens is going to be your best option in my opinion. I did like the look of the 12 to 24. I mean, I'm filming with it right now. You tell me. I love this lens. The optics on this lens is just incredible. So sharp, so beautiful. I'm very, very pleased with it. I think it looks good when you have it on a tripod like this. It's perfect, man. It's just really, really, really nice. For vlogging, it's a bit heavy. It's a bit big. You know, as far as being able to see the screen, you can't, because like I said, the front element is so large, and it's the same thing for the 17 to 50. The front element is just so large. You have a 77 millimeter filter thread. It just becomes too big, and it covers up the screen that flips down, and it renders it completely useless. You know what I'm saying? I said before, I think it covers 60%. Well, I have the screen flipped down right now, and I can't see any of it, to tell you the truth. It covers 95% of the screen, not 65%. So anyhow, but something to look out for, like I said before, Sigma, Tamron, Viltrox, they might be releasing new lenses for the Z. You know what I'm saying? So it's something to look out for. Hopefully there will be some more inexpensive, perhaps prime lenses, maybe 20 millimeters, 18 millimeters, something like that, or zooms between 12 and 24, but from a secondary brand, more suited to the Z-mount system, that could be smaller, lighter, and then maybe you'll have yourself a decent vlogging setup. But for now, I think the best vlogging setup, just for form factor, functionality, performance, is going to be the kit lens. The kit lens works really, really well. You know, like I said, the F-mount FTZ adapter also works very, very well, and I was very pleased with it. There was a couple of issues of the autofocus situation, but like I said, I think that was totally thrown off by the gray mask. I'm telling you, it's just one of those things. Last time when I was recording, I did my great conjunction special, and I turned the red light on. The red light just totally messed up the autofocus. I mean, it didn't know what to do with that. So, but that's just one of those things, one of those crazy little quirks. But you know, you wouldn't know that if I didn't happen to try that out at that circumstance, and it's just one of those things that exposed itself. But anyhow, all that being said, I mean, you make your own judgment. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what y'all thought about this for a vlogging camera. I think it could definitely be suitable for a vlogging camera, and I mean, some of it's user error. If I learn to use it a little better, maybe I'll try this again and kind of dial it in for y'all. But you know, from first try, I think it's a very successful first try. I think it's definitely something that could be considered amongst all those other, cameras that are always seem to be a go-to for vloggers. The Nikon Z50 is up there right now, and it's getting to be something that's very popular too. People are recognizing it, and I think for good reason. So what y'all think about it? Write that down in the comments below. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe and all that bullshit. And hey man, keep tuned, because I'm gonna be doing more tests with this Nikon Z50, so we're gonna see how it performs. You know what I'm saying? All right then, peace.